Okay. So I'm going to jump right in because we have a lot of stuff to cover. Um, so I brought a poem from Grossman. Maybe some of you have heard of her. Uh, you can tell she has an Israeli name, and she was born in Rishon LeZion in 1976. So she's relatively one of our younger poets. She also writes novels, um, and she's published 4 books of poetry. Very prolific in her young. Uh, she's she's not very old. 4 poetry books and how many? 9. Uh, a few novels, and who would like to read this? It's
I have a question. I have a question first. Is she related to David Grossman?
Oh, I have to look that up. I am not sure.
Because he's a well-known author in Israel.
Yes, yes. Rosa, would you like to read this one?
Okay. If a friend calls out to you late at night from beneath your window, never send him on his way. And if you've sent him away and still insist on rigid rules, regain your composure after a moment and run to the window and shout his name. Come, Merhav, come back. I've got some corn cooking. Come eat something. And he'll placidly retrace his steps and gladly accept the key you toss down from your window. We'll come upstairs to the first floor and will be impressed by the large pictures on the walls. He'll sit and wait for you to slip into a clean shirt, and you'll put on the movie in the kids' room, and your baby daughter will rush to the kitchen and come back with a red pepper for him. He'll decline the warm corn and say he's already had dinner. In the meantime, your husband will chat with him about Tai Chi and pour him a glass of cold, sweet pineapple juice. You'll return to the living room and go out to the balcony and light a cigarette and sip a cold beer. You don't yet realize that this is a sublime moment in your life, one of the most sublime you'll ever know.
Oh.
Wow.
I brought this one because you're really moving around. This is not about an object like a telephone, where it's almost like a short movie, and it creates such a mood. And so I wanted you to think about that in your own poems, and also to just point out all the details she has here that are just so wonderful. You could taste everything, the cold sweet pineapple juice, the red pepper. It brings such color to the poem. And then, of course, at the end, we're left thinking we don't, you can go so many places with this. What's really going on here? Was that a former lover? Lover now? Who knows? What do people think?
Well, I thought she was leaving someplace, and then there was a twist when the husband appears. So
and
that was
friend?
Interesting.
Who's the friend? Go ahead, Sandy.
In the opening sentence, you think it's a woman, and then you realize it's a man, and she seems a little bit annoyed that he's there, but then she thinks about it for a moment, and you know, I shouldn't be so ungracious. And she tells him to come up. It could have been her brother. It could have been a relative. It may have been a past lover. We don't know that. But in the end, we see that this moment may never happen again, and to enjoy it while it's happening.
Why is she tossing a key out the window? That was
So
interesting.
she doesn't have to come down the steps.
Yeah.
If you live in an apartment on the second or third floor, you've got to go down and then all the way up again. So she tossed him the key so that she wouldn't have to come down the steps.
To unlock the door. I thought it was a classmate, an ex-classmate, someone she didn't really know well.
Right.
Why? Her reluctance at first to let him in. He's obviously never been to her apartment or her place of residence before.
Right.
Maybe he's a student.
Yeah, it's leaving room for the reader here.
Right.
I got a totally different impression.
Yeah.
I had that this was someone from a long ago past, and probably maybe it was her family home, and he came outside and was trying to get in touch like sometimes you would do if you were a teenager, and that he didn't know that she was married or had a family, and he came. And then she, you know, like usual, she threw down the key, or she told him to come up and allowed her back in, and that to show what her life was like. But maybe deep down, she felt really good that, you know, he still was interested in coming to see her. And that's why it was the most sublime moment in her life.
Oh, I like that. I like that interpretation. And Beth, who I'm not seeing here, she wrote in the chat, before your husband realizes the relationship between you two. I like that. There's mystery. And that was the other reason I brought it. The idea of mystery in a poem is a nice thing for your own poems when you're writing them. So
I think it implies that there might have been a past relationship, because if it was an old girlfriend, you know, she'd ring the bell. You know, every time we think of a balcony or outside a window or somebody down below, we think of some kind of romantic relationship.
yeah.
So I thought this was kind of an Israeli thing, like, because the buildings are locked, right? So, and everybody has a balcony. And there's more, like, it would be very likely that a friend would stop under your balcony and call up to see if you're home, because
Okay.
it's that kind of climate. So I thought this was really like a pretty beautiful evocation of what it's like to live in a city in Israel. And it's, you know, there's life on the balconies that, you know, we just don't have. Maybe in a bigger city, but certainly not me. I have a yard. And it's also something we can't, it's nice to read it right now, because this is not something we can do right now. Like, I just had a friend call. I happened to be sitting out front on my front stoop, which I don't usually do. And she just happened to be walking by. We did a distance walk. But I also really love this, you know, I'd love to hear it in Hebrew, because
Yes.
it is so gorgeous and has such a great rhythm to it. If a friend calls out to you late at night from beneath your window, never send him on his way. I mean, it's like, it got a beautiful rhythm. And I wonder what that sounds like in Hebrew. And I don't speak Hebrew, so it's not going to help me to go read it.
Yeah, they published this in the New Yorker, and they had a recording, but it was, you know, obviously in English, but it would be great to hear it in Hebrew. Yes. So I'm going to keep going.
Well, can I just make one final comment?
Sure, sure.
You, the line, you toss down the key, we'll come upstairs to the first floor and we'll be impressed. Obviously, this has to have taken place in Europe or Israel, because in the United States, we would have called it the second floor.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yes, right, right.
Yeah.
She's written this poem remembering living in Israel.
Right. Right.
But did she immigrate?
I think she still lives in Israel. I think so.
The New York says she lives in Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
And I love the clean shirt. I mean, the details here just really pop. So, okay. So I chose our next one because we're coming, well, for a lot of reasons. Lucille Clifton is one of my favorite. These are all my favorite. I know I say that as we scroll through, but Lucille Clifton is one of my all-time favorite poets. And for those who don't know, she's an African-American poet, writer, and educator, initially from Buffalo, New York. She was born in 1936 and died not too long ago, about 10 years ago. She was a poet laureate of Maryland, and has, also with so many of these poets, won many major awards, including the Ruth Lilly Poetry Prize. And I also brought it because of Mother's Day, and you'll see why. So who would like to read this?
I'll read it.
Go ahead.
Oh, antic God. Oh, antic God, return to me my mother in her 30s, leaned across the front porch, the huge pillow of her breast pressing against the rail, summoning me in for bed. I am almost the dead woman's age times 2. I can barely recall her song, the scent of her hands, though her wild hair scratches my dreams at night. Return to me, O Lord, of then and now. My mother's calling, her young voice humming my name.
How about the huge pillow of her breast pressing against the rail?
That's very, very descriptive.
Yes. And just wanting her mom.
But
I must say that it resonated with me because both my grandmother and my mother and my sister and I were all double Ds. So we all had huge breasts. And sometimes I couldn't even find clothing that fit me at the top, and then I went straight down. Everything had to be taken in at the bottom. So this resonated with me and made me laugh, especially since my daughter used to call my breasts her fluffy pillows.
Wow. Yeah.
This resonates with me as well. My mother died when she was 39 years old. And to know that I've lived more than twice her age is something. And you look back and you think when you're a kid, you take for granted your parents. And now when you don't have them, she's recalling, how wonderful it was when she was there.
Yeah. 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 And you know, she gives you specifics about her own mother, but we all see our own somehow in this. But Margie, you were going to say something.
Well, the two things I was thinking of is how young the mom died, obviously. And then the second thing I thought of, that it just, not that she said it, but I went there in my head, you know, when somebody dies, maybe not nowadays, but up until very recently, you had photos of them, you had stories of them, but you never, the voice is what you don't get. Even in old videos, you know, you very seldom have the voice of the person, and that's the thing that you don't remember. It's just kind of this, like, you wish you could hear that voice again. And even though she's not saying it, my head went there, that she was remembering back the sound of her mother's voice and calling her name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no, she wasn't. She was wishing she could hear the voice. Her voice. You forget.
You forget the sound of the voice.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting what she says she can barely recall. I know that music, it gets all mixed up in your head, and sometimes you don't have the tune straight all the time. And then sense, you can remember a smell, but if you don't smell it, you don't get the sensation. But she remembers wild hair scratches her dreams at night. That's interesting because it's a sensory thing.
Yeah.
Physically sensory thing.
Yeah. And isn't it, I'm not sure this is true, but I read it somewhere that the sound is the last sense you lose before you die. Is that true?
Yes, that's what I've heard.
Yeah. So, and Beth has written in the chat, Kadeshia Meno, return me back to days of yore. So that's interesting.
I think
Beautiful poem, beautiful.
I love Lucille Clifton.
Oh, a fan too.
Love it. I've met her biographer, Michael Glazer. He's a really nice man.
Oh.
I love this word. I wonder about the word antic. Antic God, Lord of then and now.
Yeah, what do you think?
Well, so is it antic in the sense of capricious? I mean, I can't decide what her particular, you know, is it a good antic or a bad antic? Or is it just a God who maybe not, you know, maybe he'll do this, maybe he won't, don't know.
I read it as the spelling, even though it's spelled this way, I thought it meant ANTIQUE, because later on she says, "Oh Lord of then and now." So he's a God that is far away, long time ago, but she still wants to grab onto the idea that God may be present today.
Yeah. Again, you know, leaving room for us to bring our own definition. And it's so interesting because both the first poem and this poem, very specific, detail, but we have a lot of room for interpretation. It's counterintuitive, right? You would think, oh, be very broad in your description. No, these poets are very specific, and it's giving us a lot of room to bring our own experience to the poem. So, again, something to think about. Okay, I know we could spend a lot more time on each one, but I want to bring you and then get to your poems. And we have a guest poem coming up after this. So this one is by Jung Lee. And he's a he comes from Jakarta, Indonesia. And he's a wonderful, wonderful poet, another one of my favorites. And he I think he's from Chicago. He lives in Chicago now, and also won all kinds of major awards. And it's interesting. His maternal, this is interesting, I found this out, his maternal great-grandfather was, I'm gonna not say his name right, Yuan Shikai, China's first Republican president who attempted to make himself emperor. So that's kind of interesting. And this poem comes from one of his books called The Rose. So who would like to read that?
Can I read it?
Yes.
I actually have met him and I've done workshops with him.
Oh.
And I've read his biography, which is, his autobiography is called Seed, I think, and it's written in verse. And probably one of the most underrated works of poetry out there. Like it like did a belly flop when it came out, and I have no idea why, because it was fantastic. So
Wow.
everyone to read that. Well, I think it's like Wandering Seed or something like that. Flying Seed, something about seeds. Anyway, look it up. It's amazing. And this Rose was his first collection. He's had like 3 or 4 others.
Yes.
He was a student of Gerald Stern.
Right.
And also of Robert Bly.
Yes.
And he's great. Anyway, I'll stop.
No, that's great.
And he lives on Lawrence Avenue in Chicago.
Oh, okay. So he's still there. He's still there.
Anyway, he's also a friend of Fran Quinn, who's an Indianapolis poet. So I ended up at the workshop with him. It's all connected.
Yeah, yeah.
So, okay, early in the morning. While the long grain is softening in the water, gurgling over a low stove flame, before the salted winter vegetable is sliced for breakfast, before the birds, my mother glides an ivory comb through her hair, heavy as black calligrapher's ink. She sits at the foot of the bed. My father watches, listens for the music of comb against hair. My mother combs, pulls her hair back, tight, rolls it around 2 fingers, pins it in a bun to the back of her head. For 100 years, she has done this. My father likes to see it like this. He says it is kempt, but I know it is because of the way my mother's hair falls when he pulls the pins out, easily, like the curtains when they untie them in the evening.
Ah, beautiful. Beautiful.
Wow.
Beautiful.
One thing that I noticed between this poem and the other one was the way they refer to age in different ways.
Yes. Say more about that.
The way they use numbers, they say it indirectly, 100 years. And the other one was what, I'm almost twice as old, or yeah.
Yeah. That's a great observation, you know, because you get so much in those numbers, you know, so much work is done in those numbers for 100 years. I mean, that's a wonderful way to say 50 and you know, the idea of how old, you know, you could see how tangled up that would be if Lucille Clifton tried to say it in prose, that she's twice the, you know, it's a great technique.
I find this to be a love poem.
Early in the morning, yeah.
It is definitely, she liked the idea of her parents and the way they acted towards each other. She definitely fixed her hair.
The poet is a man. The poet's a man.
I know, but I believe he's talking about his parents.
Yes, yes, yes.
And that it's a love poem. and that she sits and does something very specifically. Nobody else is in the room but her husband, and she does this fixing of her hair that he likes. I mean, it is a way of bringing him to her.
Yeah.
Now, if she's been doing this for 50 years.
Well, he's
so
liked
she's
them all 50.
She's
He wouldn't
a
keep
little bit
doing
up
it.
there. She's a little bit up there, but her hair is still black and heavy. So I found that interesting. In the next stanza, is that what it's called, a stanza?
Yes, yes.
Is that what
Yes, it
stanza?
is.
The poet doesn't dare put the comb and the hair in the same line because he says it, comb against hair. Comb against hair. It's a bit of a chore for her because she still has a full head.
Right. And I was going to say one thing that this poem does is it sanctifies a ritual, and that's something to think about. I mean, the Psalms we read, every day, the idea of making something that is every day holy. And this is really what he's doing here.
I was thinking of something different.
Yes.
We always talk about the beauty of the hair. That's probably why, people have to wear wigs and so forth in the Orthodox community. But in this case, he likes it that she puts her hair in a bun for the outside world, but he's the one who can take the pins out and actually sees her hair cascading and beautiful as it is.
Yeah, it's a private moment.
Yes, I was going to say I like the combination of the ivory comb. Ivory is light color. It's not exactly white, but it's like a beige. And the contrast of the beige with the black head calligrapher's ink, that's a beautiful juxtaposition there.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. It's just popping. And the winter vegetable, I'm glad this is resonating with you.
And it's obviously really early because it's before the birds, he says.
Yeah, before.
You have to be up real early if you're before the birds.
Birds. Right.
And obviously, I love the allusion to when you close the curtains, it's obviously private time.
Yeah.
But it's also, maybe she's been doing it for 50 years with him, which means they've been married for 50 years.
Yeah, when a baby is born, you don't do this. You don't have long hair, so the woman is older than 50 years.
Right, and it's gets intimate. It's intimate at the end. So I feel like it's a love poem, to his parents and especially his mom. Another Mother's Day. So before we get to your poems, we have a special guest. The rabbi's son, Sam, has written a poem in response to night. So would Sam like to read that before we get to our poems?
And you want to unshare screen so we could see each other?
Yeah, we see him.
Okay. Oh, we want them to see each other too. At least I want to see the 21 people on.
Oh, okay. So I can stop sharing. Okay.
So just so you know, Sam will be 12 in July, and he's in the 6th grade. So they're reading Night by Elie Wiesel.
Okay. May 4th, 1944. Dear world, save us. It is always night here in the camp, night here and there, never leading to anywhere. All of us are in such pain. I wish the Nazis would just refrain from making us Jews suffer like a bug being stomped on, but many times. Such pain and anguish. How and why do we deserve this? We Jews are all in the night. We Jews are all in the night, never again going to see daylight. I should have stayed. I shouldn't have gone. I could have been as free as a bird in the sky, but I went and I regret every day the mistake I made, putting myself through more suffering. This will never end, like the torture of a small bird being rattled in the strong wind. I wish this would stop. Help me now before the sun ever rises again. Help me now. Help me before the sun in my heart won't shine again. Listen to this and think about it. Free us now, and we will always thank you about it. Save us now, sincerely, Elie Wiesel.
Wow. Wow, very powerful. Very powerful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think the power, at least when I read it, was also how you can't see it, but the rhyming of the lines.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
How old was Elie Wiesel when he wrote this?
oh, Elie Wiesel didn't write it. My 11-year-old son wrote it.
You wrote
Oh, but
it.
you mean Night? Oh, the book
Yeah.
Night?
No.
Oh.
So I'm sorry, I'm mistaken. You wrote this poem, Sam?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that is
Reflecting on the
amazing.
story that you had learned, right?
I relate to that very
Yeah.
much. Beautiful, Sam. Wonderful
you.
job.
Yes.
So I was intrigued by when you said that you could have not been there. I didn't really understand that part.
Oh, in the book, Elie could have been taken out of the camps by the Russians, but then he decided to stay with his dad and go to another camp.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah, that was a very powerful line. I should have stayed. That, is a line that went through the poem for me, and the rhymes.
Beautiful. Absolutely
Beautiful.
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 So I wanted him to share it because you've inspired him, and he sat in on some of these classes, the book class, the movie class, occasionally my psalm, but he has school during psalm, so.
Yes, Sam, keep writing.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for letting him read his.
Oh,
Anytime.
come back.
Absolutely.
Sam, come back with some new work.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nice, Sam.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Wait, first.
Wow. Well, that I'm still thinking about Sam's poem, but let's go to your poems now, and I have put them in no particular order, only in the order that they came to me. So this one is from Roberta, another acrostic, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
This poem is in response to the latest you ever stayed up and why. So it is entitled The Rose Parade, and it spells out the Rose Parade, but it's actually the evening and morning before. Time passes in anticipation of a historic event, the Rose Parade of 1972. He picks me up from my parents' house, eagerly drives me to his parents' house. Red and yellow roses fill the air with a sweet fragrance on the festive table where our special dinner awaits. Sirloin steak, twice-baked potatoes, and Caesar salad entice me to accept the chair pulled out for me by my anxious host. Partaking of a sparkling champagne, a celebratory toast is made for a happy new year. Rows of brightly lit candles burn down slowly as our conversation, full of joy and romance, lasts for hours until the very early morning. Dessert finally arrives, my favorite chocolate cake with whipped cream, bananas, and strawberries, and a honeyed Earl Grey tea, ending our repast, but beginning our journey to Colorado Boulevard, where we would sit together, huddling in the cold and darkness throughout the rest of that glorious night.
Ah, nice.
I go along with this because I lived in Pasadena and would go to the Rose Bowl parade and sit on Colorado Boulevard all night with all my friends. And then when my daughters got to be old enough, they too did it. Their whole USY group used to go, and we knew where they were going to sit, and we used to bring them food so that they could drink hot chocolate all night long.
That's terrific. It speaks to me because I'm from Canton, Ohio, and I marched in the Professional Football Hall of Fame parade for years, and you had to be downtown at 3:30 in the morning. And ours is not in the winter, however. We march in August when it's about 98 degrees. Yeah. And so it was a little different as far as the weather, but you know, you only had to do it once to learn to be prepared. So you'd start bringing your own cocoa or coffee or a bag of donuts and sharing it with other people. And it's so interesting from the other side, because I've sat and waited for parades, but nothing beats being in one. Nothing beats being in a parade.
So I wanted to ask Roberta, is this before you got married, right?
Yes, it wasn't with my husband.
Wouldn't have been picked up from her parents' house if she was married. It had to be a young romance.
Yeah, it was before I met him.
Yeah. You really planned this date out, though, Roberta. This is a really prepped date with the dinner and how festive, and planning this all-nighter before you go to the parade. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that that prompt brought you to the parade and gave us the parade. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, let's keep going so we'll have enough time. The next is yes.
Okay. Can you hear me?
No doubt what year this poem was written.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
I still don't have this mute unmute thing down yet. All right, grounded again. There was a curfew and a common sense rule. If you think you'll be late, make sure that you call. Your mom and dad worry. You know we love you. But time after time, what did I do? I failed to adhere and I came home late from a BBG social or a movie date. So time after time, what did they do? Why, grounded me, of course. No more outing for you. But just one exception to this strict ground rule. One place I could walk to each day after school. To the free library, 2 blocks away. And that was one rule I dared not disobey. Don't know why I was such a thoughtless contrarian, but no great surprise, I became a librarian.
That's fantastic.
Good.
Liberty with the theme of lateness.
Love it.
Yeah, that's great.
Very good.
Yep.
That last line is just terrific.
Terrific, yeah.
This reminds me of when I lived in Philadelphia, I lived in Winfield, and across the city line, it was a different county. So if you came late and you crossed the street and you were not 16 years old or older, you got picked up by the police. But what was funny was my grandfather was a cop, and the police that used to pick me up were all his buddies. And it happened every single time, and they would drive me home with the sirens. But my mother, you were to wake up, when I came home, knowing that it was late.
Still a
Oh.
rebel.
Wow.
By the way, you were Winfield, I was Mount Airy.
Yay! You were the little O, we were the big O.
I love this.
Overbrook.
And I think the rhyming really works. It
Yes.
It
works well with the subject of
I
the
love
poem.
it.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Nice piece.
Yeah.
Fun, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Made me laugh.
Yeah. Thoughtless contrarian. Love that.
How many words rhyme with librarian?
I know, I bet
I mean, Miss Beth, unless you went to the, never.
Great secret.
So I'm gonna keep moving. We have right here. Now we have Deena.
Yeah, I sort of combined a couple of things, and you'll understand when I read it. My mother was born in Philadelphia and lived her whole life there. Her family and friends died one by one, leaving her alone. After all, her parents and husband had died years before. Her nieces and nephews and daughters lived far away. Her friends were all dead. I was her lifeline to her history, her present, and her future. At first, I called her every Sunday and asked her what she had done that week. She would answer, "I washed my hair." And so I moved her to California to be near me, and that was what started my hurt and anger. My mother lived at the Jewish Home for the Aging for the last 9 years of her life. My husband was the rabbi at JHA until his death in 2010. She was proud of him and seemed to love him more than me. My sister lived in Denver and has multiple sclerosis, and it seems that she loved her more than me. Each day I visited her. Each day she would say, "I love your sister more than you." Whenever she said that, it would hurt my feelings. I would become angry. I would pick up my things and leave until the next day. Some days I was there for only a few minutes, and some days I was there for hours. This went on for 9 years. In all those years, I never knew why Mom would say those terrible words. After all, I was her oldest child. I was there to visit her every day. I sang with her. I took her to the doctor's office. I took her shopping. I took her out to eat. I took her to the movies. I had dinner with her each Shabbat. Without me, she would have had no visitors and I would have had no family. Then on the last day of her life, my mother said to me, "Do you know why I say I love your sister more than you?" When I replied, "No, Mom, I don't, but it hurts my feelings," she said, "I'm sorry. It's because your father loved you more." I was perplexed. I did not understand that at all. So then she explained, "You were born on your father's birthday. You were his birthday present from me." While I did not believe this statement, even for one moment, I had received a gift from my mom, a gift that made me understand why she said such a terrible thing to me day in and day out for 9 years. The explanation was her gift to me. She died the next morning on May 26, 2016, 2 days before her 95th birthday. I had done nothing to deserve the 9 years of hurt, but be born on my father's birthday. She had given me anger and hurt to live with for all that time. But now that I know why she said it, even though I'm sure that it's not really true, I am at peace with it, without hurt, without anger, and with love.
Wow.
Wow.
That's amazing.
You've taken us on an emotional journey.
And it's true, every word. And all the nurses knew that when I walked out, they would say to me, "Oh, she said it again."
Did it help you to write it?
It's a brave poem.
Yeah. Did it help you to write it out?
No,
Yeah, I was going to ask that too.
It's all me. I wrote it.
Now, what Paul is asking you, do you feel better now that you put it into words?
Yeah,
They're cathartic for you.
right, right.
Yes, yes, that's true.
So she didn't say that to you until you moved her to California?
Well, that's right. I mean, before that, seriously, I would say, what did you do this week? She would say, I washed my
My
hair.
hair.
I mean, that's all she ever told me. I washed my hair. So I never knew whether she stayed in the house all day, every day, or what she did.
But when you were growing up, did she say that to you? I love your sister more?
No,
No, not until.
no. She never said anything like it until I'm literally the only one left. I am the oldest member of the entire family on both my mother's and father's side now. And she never said anything like this until, I don't know why she decided to start saying this, but that's what she did. And for 9 years, that's what she said to me.
Deena,
You know, you touch on
Deena, do you think it was a reaction to your moving her away from her home, her friends, and putting her in this place
Nope, she had no friends left and no family left.
before you moved her into this nursing home?
Before I moved her to California. She stayed with me for the first month that she was here, and she asked to go to the Jewish home. And she knew it because my husband was the rabbi, and we used to go there every Friday and have dinner, and she saw how nice a place it was, and she wanted to go there. And so my husband said, I'll get her in, and he did.
Yeah, but do you think that she still was reacting to being there and expressing this through these nasty words, which only started when you did this?
You know what?
She said she wanted to go, but maybe she really didn't.
I just want to interrupt one thing, is that, you know, we only have what is on the paper, and that's what the author wanted to tell us.
Yeah.
So we can think about it, not necessarily, you know, Deena had some ideas when she obviously was writing this, but she doesn't have to explain to us, you know, the impulses of it. That's the freedom of being an artist and a poet. So let's just react to what's here, and that's.
Okay, may I just explain? I had a similar situation with my grandparents.
Okay.
My parents died. I got up from Shiva, moved my grandparents into a nursing home. So one of the first things we did was pick them up from their apartment in Queens and move them there. As we were wheeling them out in their wheelchairs, they were yelling, "Goodbye, house, goodbye, friends." And
yeah,
the anger was really there.
Right.
And this poem of hers brought back feelings to me that I haven't had since my grandparents died.
Yeah, wow.
Lived there for, my grandfather lived for not too long, but my grandmother was there for years and years.
So look at what this, Deena, what your poem has brought up for everybody, and it has impact.
Well, my mother wanted to go there, and she was very proud of the fact that she was like a celebrity because her son-in-law was the rabbi.
Right, right. Very powerful. Thank you. Thank you. Let's keep moving along, and we now are going to Margie. Thank you again, Deena.
Definitely different than last week's. Kitchen, you are not my friend. Why do you tease me? Your allure is cruel. Drawn in by your sleek lines, shiny appliances, delicious smells, table overlooking the lake, ducklings and herons surround the shoreline, calm waters rippling in the sun, pink sky glistens at sunset. I sit at that table, majestic view, tortured by your conflicting messages. Brightly colored dishes, tempting to be used. Silverware now, weapons of war. Sustenance is necessary, a misguided excuse. Each day the battle continues. Kitchen, warm, welcoming space. You are not my friend.
Like how I relate to this, Margie. You'll see later. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Well, this was obviously the first category of room somewhere.
I love it.
A little more whimsical than last week. Still a tortured poem, but
The view sounds fantastic. The kitchen sounds fantastic. And I know you live on Long Island, which means you're closer to Ina Garten than I am. So if you ever need a house sitter, I'm right here.
But she's living in Florida and she's stuck there.
Either way, both kitchens I don't like.
So she'd welcome someone in Long Island right now to look after things. That's all I'm saying, Deena.
There you go. Come on.
And I like that exclamation point at the end. You are not my
Not
friend.
my friend.
And I like my silverware, weapons of
Weapons
war.
of war. Yes, I like that. Yeah.
That was one of my kind of chuckling as I wrote it and saying, oh, they're too big, the portions are too big. Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah.
I like.
Look where the room has brought us to so many different rooms.
Yeah.
It's great. Really great. Really great. Would anyone else like to comment on this before we move along?
She's got comments in the chat. Everybody's agreeing with you.
We're all having the same problem.
Oh, yes. Yeah, do you see that?
Yes.
I like the view.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
view.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow. Great. Great. Okay.
My kitchen just looks out across to the neighbors.
And this is Rosa's. Rosa had sent a few, and I was trying to figure, it was hard for me to choose one. So Rosa, I hope you're okay with my choice.
Yes, very good. Thank you.
Okay.
The butterfly. I feel like a butterfly imprisoned in a cocoon. By definition, a cocoon protects. So why do I feel imprisoned within these four walls? Don't I know I have to bide my time, that this tight enclosure will allow me to grow, that I will be beautiful when I emerge, and my colors will unfurl in full splendor, flying towards the light? Would I rather stay in the cocoon and not taste the possibilities of what is out there? Whether I want it or not, it will happen. I will see the light again.
Beautiful, Rosa.
Great one.
That was beautiful,
Lovely,
Rosa.
Rosa.
Yeah.
So this poem I wrote almost at the beginning of our stay-at-home time during the ban on public on going out, and so I just remember that the butterfly goes first through from a cocoon, and then it just I just thought of the wings unfurling, and that's how I felt, and it's a poem of hope that we're going to see the light again. Although we do see the light, but that we'll be free to go about wherever
Right.
we want.
Right.
Beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful. I like that, the hopefulness at the end. I will see the light again. Like a little prayer, yeah.
It reminds me of one of the modern prayers you find in the newer prayer books.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I love the image that we're just in a cocoon, a safe, protective cocoon now, and then we're going to get out and be able to fly and be butterflies again.
And we need to bide our time, but the light will come again.
Can we, I know Rosa sent me an email that we could use some of the poetry, but this is a wonderful one that the education committee is looking for people to write things about what's going on right now while we're in shelter in place. So those people who have read, like Rosa, and can we use the poems if we, in any of our educational materials? I don't.
Yes,
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 definitely.
Okay.
Thank you.
yes,
Beautiful. All of them have been.
yes. Wonderful, wonderful. I love the way in this, not that I designed it this way, but the way the moods keep shifting in this packet. It's just really great. So this is Jacqueline.
Jackie, yeah. Are you ready?
Yes.
We're ready.
A messy, angry garage. Don't these people know that a car belongs in here? Spring is here and everything is thrown in here but the car. They think they know where everything is, but I think they should utilize bulk garbage pickup for some of it. A childhood accordion that doesn't work, an old croquet set, cans of paint that are probably no good, brooms, tools, and shovels of all sorts. Hula hoops, badminton rackets, frisbees, but no children. Lots of tools, even Grandpa's toolbox. What treasures? Even Star Trek and baseball cards. And then there are the mudroom supplies, extra groceries, paper goods, cleaning supplies, beach towels and chairs for summer fun, all with a place and a purpose.
Wow, good. I love it.
There was one more part. I guess it didn't get in there. Wait.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Oh, I guess I'm not that messy or angry. Those people need a place for things. I'll get my car back in the winter.
I'm gonna go clean my garage.
That's great.
So, truth is, I think it should all go into bulk garbage, but my husband doesn't.
And it's so interesting. My fault that I didn't bring it down to the next page, but look how the poem changed. You know, if you ended at purpose versus ending where you did, it's an interesting edit, one way or the other, the impact of it.
That is the tale of many a garage, Jackie.
Yes.
And storage unit. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You have a great voice.
Yeah.
I loved hearing you recite the poem.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe we can have a, what do they call those?
Move up here and do a show for me. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must be my Rochester accent.
Okay. Oh, we're almost at 3, but we'll look at this. Okay, now we're Sandy.
Yep. Margie will relate to this. I guess everyone will too. The room. Early morning, the day starts off right. I enter this room with magical delights. It is filled with an array of treasures. It nourishes my body and soul. Each of my senses come alive, the smells, the textures. It's filled with so many pleasures. The colors of the rainbow, red, orange, green, yellow, and white. Crystal clear water whets my appetite. Admit I must. Sometimes I am forgetful and experiments grow inside. It's the evening hours that fill me with dread, for this room that once nourished me can make me sick instead. Too much of a good thing will send me to bed. This room beckons me like a moth to a flame. I have no control. This room becomes a seductress. Of that I'm ashamed. If I continue on this path, don't make me laugh, Dave. This you will find. A room with a waistband that I dare say is mine.
Oh, that's good.
Sandy.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
I love
it. You know, what I love in poems is there's definitely a word there, but then the word makes you think of another word. So that happened in the poem, sick instead. I heard sick in the head.
That too.
And that's
That works. That works definitely.
yeah, that when you hear another word that sort of it's like an echo. So very funny.
I love it.
I can connect. I think everybody has a room like that in their house.
Well, it's the kitchen.
And, you know, sometimes you put things in the refrigerator and you forget they're there.
Oh, that's
and
funny. Yeah.
find it, it's like, oh
Experiments,
my
yeah.
God, this is scary. I can grow penicillin.
Oh my gosh. Like the war room, these torture chambers called the kitchen.
I used to love to be in my kitchen and to cook, but I had people to cook for.
Wow.
Now I don't, and I don't want to be in there just to cook for me.
Well, that's an emotional thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's well, Beth just wrote, I'd love to see these published in an anthology of people's sheltering experience, nationwide, worldwide. No, absolutely, and there's so many places that are calling for poems, and you know, I know even the New York Times, they ask people to submit things, so definitely do. And there's also a magazine called Poets and Writers. I'm sure some of you have heard of that, and they have callings for all kinds of different subjects. So send your work out for sure, for sure. And we are now have, last but surely not least, Irene.
Okay.
Another all-nighter one.
An all-nighter.
Up all night. The owl announced your arrival. Through the night, I pushed. Then a fiery burst, followed by sleeplessness. Up all night, I saw the fox, early morning, shimmering red in the November mist. I didn't dream her or you. No, your cries were real, demanding all night to be held in this strange new world.
Good.
Wow.
Beautiful,
Yeah,
beautiful.
beautiful.
That's the birth of your child, right?
It's my second one. Didn't sleep for like 3 years.
And you
remember this well.
Are you still related to that child?
She lived. I lived. She
gave her away, huh?
to hip dysplasia. So from her first week of life on, she was in a harness for 9 months. Doctors, it doesn't accept, it's not painful, whatever. But it's not true. She was uncomfortable, and she would not sleep unless I was holding her like this all night.
Oh.
And it was horrible.
How old is she now?
10. And her hips are fine, and she's a skater and a ballerina, and she's gorgeous.
Wonderful.
But she was my little frog.
She owes you.
Even after, because she couldn't get the habit of sleeping, it took her a long time. And then my mother would take care of her sometimes and feed her at night. So she would cry in the middle of the night. And when she could talk, she started yelling for snack and milk at like 3 in the morning.
Oh, no.
Wow, and so interesting. I do not know anything about your life, and I did not see that at all in this poem. You know, I was with the owl and the fox and the strange new world, which resonated for me now, what we're living through now. So I'm so glad it had that other double meanings going on there and double storylines.
I'm glad it could be interpreted another way.
Totally.
I must say that I feel like I know this child, because when I was a child, I was like a duck foot, and so they wanted to correct that. So I was wearing a brace, a back brace, and it was so hot in the summertime to wear this brace around, you know, because I wanted to be free and wear my bathing suit. And here I had this really tight corset kind of a thing on so that my legs would start to go the right way. They never did. I'm still a duck foot.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. I have a question. How are we having a seminar, a workshop next Thursday also?
I think we, where is Rabbi?
I'm here. At this point, we don't have one scheduled for now because we have a few other things Sarah needs to do as our communications and marketing director. You'll see a bunch of letters coming out soon for our virtual ad journal, and we're getting started and continuing on our convention, making it to virtual. So we have a lot of things going on that she's doing, but I have a feeling we'll be doing virtual classes for a while. So in the future, maybe not again in the month of May, but we'll do another one if we're able to. Is that good?
So much fun.
Maybe in a few weeks.
Sarah wouldn't have to prepare anything. We could just send our stuff and just read it like we do it. We have stories from out of our lives and we read our stories.
Well, I have an idea. I have an idea. You know, I teach in, I've been teaching for, you know, in different places, and I actually think it's a good thing to take a break and then start up in the next, you know, maybe over the summer or in the fall, where we'll have another 3 sessions. And I think that's good for your writing. And I think we should go ahead that way. I mean, maybe, you know, over the next month or 2, we'll meet again. But I did want to give Sandy has one more poem, has a poem that she would like to read.
And then people have asked for a topic or a group of topics to prompt us in our creative writing,
Okay.
And know that is one of the people that organizes the dates. We will keep it in mind and try to do something, but probably not in the month of May and probably later in the month of June. We'll see. But it's nice to know that people enjoyed this. So
yes.
Sandy.
And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed meeting you all and hearing your voices.
Can I still send you my poem if we didn't get to? Because I never remember to send it to you.
Oh yes, do send it to me.
Okay.
Yes, and I would like to hear Sandy's poem, and then we will meet hopefully again in a couple months.
Perfect. By that time, we'll all have books of poetry.
So Sandy, will you read your poem?
Which Sandy?
Sandy Carlton.
Oh, Sandy Carlton's on the phone. Yeah.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes. There she
is.
Thanks for giving me this time. I didn't send it because I wasn't sure, but it kind of goes along with kind of what Deena wrote. But one of the main reasons is, you know, last week so many people shared so much of themselves, and I felt like I was kind of on the outside taking advantage of just being in this session. And so, you know, I just wanted to share, but I typed it in between things that I was doing, and then for some reason I'm on Word all the time, and Word, I must have clicked something wrong and I totally lost it. And I always tear my things up to get things off my desk. And I decided maybe God was telling me I shouldn't do this, but here it is anyway. Called Misunderstood. Friday night, high school done for another week. It was some free time for which I did seek. Now at home, gym clothes must be in the laundry room. All must be done as mom would be home from work soon. I reminded my sister to put her clothes away. A year younger, she felt she did not have to listen to what I say. Words were exchanged, voices grew loud, tempers flared. Mom home for Shabbat, and things undone for which she cared. While my sister got out of sight, my feelings with Mom seemed to fester. Even if I might be right, I was older and of course I should know better. Always trying to do what Mom wanted, we ended up in a verbal fight. She threatened to take away the basketball game at school each night. We argued and argued, for I just wanted her to see my side of things for once, just to be believed. Each Friday night seemed to be like another, as I repeatedly tried to get through to my mother. Years later, my sister admitted her part in this. However, since a sincere apology, I somehow seemed to miss. At too early an age, both my mom and sister passed. I always knew I was loved, but the hurt continues to last. All I wanted was to have them get a clue of who I was and recognize my point of view. Even today, that which upsets me a great deal is when one does not listen to what I say and how I feel. When I heard this topic suggested, I did find that this is what automatically came to mind. I wish these intense feelings would disappear, but being understood is something I still hold most dear.
Wow.
Wow.
That's perfect, Sandy.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm just so fascinated that these prompts bring up these poems, these feelings, these things that we can all relate to.
How about if you give us topics, even if we don't have the class? How about if you give us topics? Because I understood that you were going to take some of them and put them in the Women's League paper so that other people could see them. Perhaps that would be just as good. I know I enjoyed actually doing the physical work of putting it all down.
Well, we definitely are going to put these poems as some of them in the outlooks going forward. And so we will do that. But I would like to leave you with 3 prompts that you will work on for the next time that we meet. So here's the first one. A sentence your mother or father said repeatedly. What it makes you think of now. Okay. The second one.
Wait a minute.
The tallest person you know.
Tallest
person you know. What their eyes are like, their shoulders. Are they kind? And this third one. Who leans against the fence at lunchtime? Why is it them and not someone else? Why? What does it feel like to lean against the fence? What do you see from the fence?
So we are so all going to need therapy at the end of this year.
I love working with all of you. Thank you, Sarah.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, so much.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks.
Thank
Let's
you.
get back
Thank you
together
to
again.
all.